All right, we're good.
Both in frame.
And you're taller.
Yeah.
All right, what's going on? Welcome back to the Wednesday Word Wad. I'm here again with Mike Sell, and today we are going to be talking about creatine.
There we go.
I brought it on to Mike that it's going to be a little bit different format. Basically, Mike knows 100 times more than I do with all this stuff, so
That's not true. That is not true.
I'm going to be testing him a little bit. So I pulled up on the good old bodybuilding.com some creatine myths, and that's going to kind of spark the conversation.
Perfect.
Perfect? All right.
Full transparency. I have no idea where Zach is taking this. So
yes. First myth, and we can kind of keep each myth and explanation to maybe like a minute, maybe
Perfect.
2 minutes, at most 2 minutes. First myth: creatine is a steroid.
Creatine is not a steroid. So creatine is made in the body. You can also take it in supplement form. So arginine, glycine, and methionine, I believe, are the 3 amino acids that create it. It's also created in the liver, and then the kidneys, I believe. Yeah, they can also just take it as a supplement as well. Fun fact, creatine means in the Greek, I do not know the Greek word, but the Greek word means meat. Yeah. So if you ever want to think about sources in your diet that you can get creatine from, think seafood and red meat.
I think I looked up right before, like an hour ago, it was like, I think 1 kilogram of raw red meat gives you like 2 to 3 grams of creatine. Yeah. So like you can only imagine how hard that would be to eat. I mean, the dose that people recommend is usually 5 grams a day, 5 to 10 grams.
Yeah.
So then if you get that minimum effective dose of like the 5 grams, you'd have to eat like over 4 pounds of meat, red meat a day.
You know what? Liver King might be doing that.
Liver King might be doing that. All right. It's found in the body. You can supplement it. It's like, it's next to whey and caffeine, whey protein and caffeine. It's like the most researched supplement there is on the market.
Yeah, there's over 700 studies in humans.
Yeah. So, all right. More creatine you take, the better.
No, so there's not going to be a linear dose response with it. On the same token, it's perfectly safe. There's one study where they had participants take, I believe it was 30 grams a day for 5 years with straight, no
5 years?
Yeah, no adverse effects. It would just be a waste of money. So typically, we recommend 5 to 10 grams. A more precise way to do it would be 0.1 grams per kilogram of body weight. So to put that in perspective, I weigh approximately 113 kilograms right now.
Yes.
Yeah, so I take about 11-ish, 11.3 grams, we're getting precise here, of creatine per day. I think in my story today, I posted, I do 2 5-serving scoopers, and I have it rounded, so we might be doing about 12 grams.
All right. That kind of leads me to the next myth. You need a loading phase. A loading phase is mandatory.
You do not need a loading phase.
What is a loading phase?
So a loading phase is taking more creatine for a short period of time to fully saturate your creatine stores. You do not need to do it. You will probably notice the benefits of creatine quicker. But if you're like me and you just stay on...
Yeah, you take it for a lifetime.
Yeah, I don't get off it unless I forget to order it on Amazon.
Yeah.
Then sometimes there might be a week or 2 where I'm off it. But yeah, you don't need to load it. It will take maybe a few more weeks to fully saturate your creatine stores if you don't. If you do load it, typical loading protocols in the literature are about 0.3 grams per kilogram of body weight for about 5 to 7 days.
Cool. Creatine harms the kidneys and the liver.
So this is exciting. There is no evidence to suggest that they harm the kidneys. and the liver. There's tons and tons of literature on this. And then, of course, you have the FDA hotline where people can like report incidences of issues. I think from the 2018 to 2020, out of like the 1,500 people, there was like once I looked at like 1,500, 15,000, there might have been like 20 incidences of creatine harm. And then when they looked at those incidences, they all went away when they looked at confounding variables such as lifestyle, etc.
Okay.
So there was a little post hoc fallacy going on there. But anyhow, yeah, no issues with the kidneys, the liver.
Your kidneys and liver are very good at what they do.
Yeah.
And creatine, that, like you mentioned before, that is found in the body. It's in food that we eat, and it's supplemented, and it's one of the most researched supplements out there. With all those variables and kind of resources combining as one.
Interestingly, on that matter too, there was a recent meta-analysis that was just published, and it found that higher consumptions of protein decrease risk of renal failure. So people used to be worried about protein in kidneys. And again, protein is oftentimes the major source of which we get creatine. So I would suspect that there could potentially even be advantageous effects from creatine. And when you start to understand the physiology of how creatine works, it may be some protective elements there.
All right. Two more.
Yep.
Creatine causes excessive water retention. Now, this was the very first thing I heard about creatine back like 2015, 2016 when I started like stepping foot into the gym, is that like, oh, if you take creatine, like all the weight gain is just water retention, and people blowed up, all the skin is, or all the water is underneath the skin, so everyone feels puffy and kind of feels fluffy. But from my point of view, usually when you become when you have a little bit more attention to detail with one thing, so like, oh, you're becoming more conscious in the gym, like you're going to work out more regularly, usually diet kind of follows suit. Like you kind of make decisions and lifestyle changes that affect the gym, but they're outside of the gym. So from my perspective, I've noticed that like people who take creatine usually start to like pay more attention to their diet and training. So like instead of the creatine causing the excess water retention and weight gain, it's more so just probably people are training more and eating more.
Yeah, creatine is oftentimes associated with massing, which I get, but I think it's also very advantageous for cutting as well. So based on the literature that I've looked at, especially when loading, the expected weight gain due to water is approximately, on average, 1.98 to 3.98 pounds. Now, interestingly, that water increase is going to be intramuscular water, so glycogen stores go up, so you'll actually look more jacked, less flat, and less watery. So it doesn't increase subcutaneous or water storage right under the skin. It does not do that. It just makes your muscles look bigger, which I think is what most people want, because that improves the muscle to fat ratio.
Yeah.
And then answering the second part of that, creatine doesn't just increase water. It's not just like an aesthetic supplement. What creatine does is it allows you to increase high energy phosphate groups, which yield advantages during times of cellular stress. So when you work hard, you train hard in a high intensity environment, some type of hard anaerobic format like resistance training, you have hydrolysis of ATP, so it gets converted down into ADP. You have that release of those phosphate groups, which allow for higher amounts of cellular energy, allow you to kind of complete the task at hand. What creatine does is it provides a phosphate group back so that you get the conversion then back from ADP into ATP, allowing you to do more hard dope things. The population groups that seem to benefit the most from this are the elderly. and those that don't get a lot of creatine in their diet, such as vegetarians.
Vegetarians and vegans.
Vegetarians, vegans, yeah, and elderly population. So grandma should for sure be using creatine, and then it's not just isolated to your muscle. So I said hard things. 95% of your creatine storage will be in your muscle, but it also is going to yield itself well if you're going through a time where you're very maybe sleep deprived.
Okay.
It will help with memory, focus, retention. So it's kind of being analyzed now as a nootropic. And then there's some early research being done on individuals that suffer from depression and bipolar disorder, where creatine might yield a friendly hand within those domains as well. So it's not just isolated to building huge, juicy, jacked muscles. It helps to improve strength capacity because you can train a bit harder. And then it's also good for cognition and mood, specifically within certain population segments.
Yeah, so I can just picture my grandmother in the nursing home getting an Amazon package.
Yeah.
Is it just bulk supplements, creatine?
Bulk supplements, creatine. Yeah, that's the one I use.
Yeah, it's the cheapest.
It's the cheapest.
It's like
I will note, going back to creatine, the one side effect that you could notice, besides like being more jacked and attracting more attention from the bros, is if you take too much at one time, you may experience gastrointestinal issues, so like diarrhea.
Okay.
So in order to offset this, just maybe split your dosages throughout the day. Take it with food. That would be a way to offset that if you experience that.
Cool. And last kind of thing here, how should people take it? I know you mentioned throughout the day a little bit, but does it need to be taken with water? Does it need to be taken with like a certain time of the day, before, after training? Like when should it be should be taken?
Take it at a time where you remember to take it.
Yeah.
So what matters most is take it on all days, whether it be a rest day, a training day. This isn't the type of supplement that provides a similar ergogenic aid in the way that caffeine does. You want to keep yourself saturated in it. So take it every day. Now, with this being said, there is some literature to potentially suggest a slight increase in positive effects when taken like after training, so like right after your workout. But this is small, and there's not a whole lot of research on that. So my best advice would be just take it at a time where you don't forget. For me, that means taking my pre-training meal, because typically I'll have some like caffeine before I train, so I just mix it with my caffeine beverage, and I don't forget, and I train 6 days per week, so that's pretty simple there. And on the 7th day, sometimes I'll forget in the morning to take it, but before I go to bed, it usually hits me when I'm taking my melatonin. I'm like, oh, I gotta take my creatine too, so I take it then.
There you go. Cool.
Yeah.
Anything else to add?
No, again, creatine is the most researched supplement.
Yeah.
It's safe for all populations. There's no evidence that it's harmful for adolescents either.
No.
So young people can take it as well. According to the FDA, obviously talk to your doctor.
Yeah.
Utilize caution. But based on how it affects the body, based on what sources you get it from, there's no indications that there would be any type of harmful effects in the youth.
Yeah.
So 13, 14-year-olds that are getting into resistance training, it might be a benefit to start taking it then. I started around that age. Anecdotally, there were no side effects. Don't take my anecdotal success as a helpful plausibility that it's fine. But there's no indications according to the FDA that it's harmful to you.
Yeah, no fear-mongering here. More than likely, your child or the teenager is consuming it in some way, from cheeseburgers to other versions of red meat. So
yeah, and the sketchy dude at their gym is probably going to give it to him anyways. So no, it's not anabolic steroids.
No,
but the effects are positive.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Sweet.